weekend. These are some of the stories making headlines tonight. Ahead on TV47 weekend. Immediate former Kenya Ports Authority Managing Director Daniel Manduku freed on a 12 million shillings cash bill after denying 244 million shillings graft charges. ODM party calls for a speedy referendum in the interest of time ahead of the 2022 general elections. Cabinet Secretaries Fred Matiang'i and Mutahi Kagwe hailed Nyeri County COVID-19 containment efforts despite a report by MCAs saying the contrary. And
if you ask me personally, are there things there that I would like to change? My answer would be yes.
Tonight, the first Attorney General Githu Muigai, under the current constitution, shares his thoughts on a charter that is now destined for amendment after 10 years of its promulgation. A very warm welcome. My name is Mumbi Chege. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Faith Cheptile. This is TV47 Weekend. Now, former Kenya Ports Authority Managing Director Daniel Manduku has been released on a 12 million shillings cash bill. Manduku was charged alongside Juma Fadhili, a KPA works officer, before Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi. They have jointly been charged with conspiracy to commit an offense of corruption.
After a second arraignment in court, immediate former KPA boss took plea against charges of abuse of office and corruption that cost the taxpayer 244 million Kenya shillings. Daniel Manduku is accused of overpayment to contractors for works that were never completed. Manduku and his co-accused Juma Fadhili appeared before the Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi. They denied the charges. It is alleged that between March and August 2019, the two being persons employed at KPA as MD and works officers, they conspired to approve procurement of concrete barriers for a sum of 1.4 billion Kenya shillings. It is claimed the project budget was not approved. Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi freed the two on a 12 million shillings cash bill and ordered them not to contact any witnesses in the case and also deposit their passports in court.
I thus set the terms as follows. Each accused shall deposit a cash bill of Kenya shillings 12 million, in the alternative a board of Kenya shillings 30 million plus a shared like amount. I also order that they shall deposit the passports with the court and must seek permission of this court before leaving the country at any time.
Lawyer Nelson Harvey, representing Manduku, told the court that the former MD is no longer in employment and he will not be able to raise a high bail term, adding that he can only raise 500,000 Kenya shillings.
Yes.
Manduku resigned as KPA Managing Director in March this year. The resignation came weeks after a bungled arrest and arraignment in court that left the DCI and Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions with an egg in the face.
Now, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe, his Principal Secretary Susan Mochache, and a member of the COVID-19 Emergency Response Board pressurized the Medical Supplies Agency to award multi-million shilling tenders for COVID-19 related items. Appearing before Senate Joint Ad Hoc Committee, suspended KEMSA Chief Executive Officer Dr. Jonah Manjari told the Joint Senate held an Ad Hoc Committee on COVID-19. He was receiving numerous calls, short text messages and emails from the trio to award tenders for the provision of various items.
In a grilling which lasted for over 5 hours, suspended KEMSA CEO Jonah Manjari told the committee probing the alleged misappropriation of COVID-19 funds that the Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe and Health Principal Secretary Susan Mochache dictated some of the procurements pertaining the COVID-19 items.
There were, there were requests from the PS.
Okay.
There was request from the cabinet.
Which PS? He's going to give us names.
Was it written? Was it written?
As I said earlier, there was
which PS, and be specific, which PS?
Susan Mochache.
Yes, yes.
There were requests from the Cabinet Secretary, Honorable...
Written or by phone call?
Either phone calls, most of them SMSs and phone calls.
Yes.
We did have from the National Emergency Response...
Manchari's sentiments fueling a heated debate in the committee, with senators raising queries over tendering process and possible flouting of procurement laws, some senators seeking to understand how the agency spent double amount of their annual budget.
Everything that has happened, the board has said they did not give you authority. You said you did not get authority from the board. Then how do you just proceed and you ignore your other department? You've also said you are part of a management team. Then if you are part of a management team and the procurement is also part of it, are you telling me that you have people in your management team who are not qualified to be in the management team?
Corporate governance, where you are expected to ensure the smooth running of any organization, being the board that was trying. And that is why we normally have the CEO as part of the board, because they must take instructions from the board. So on this issue, the chair to the board, where even the increment of money was rising from 4.5 billion to over 7.5 billion, as per the going through the roof on the budget that was provided.
Your mandate was to oversight the KEMSA operations. Sometimes I know you might not be able to know it all, but therefore you don't have to wait until when Kenyans are going on the street is when you know that your organization has already extended, a budget which was given to them to utilize, and have committed this country to a bill whereby even the treasury might not be able to pay.
And Section 69(2) clearly stipulates, and it has gone ahead and defined what is an urgent need in the definition.
That you have an executive role to do the work of the CEO or the procurement officer or all those other officers. We have a supervisory, and we do what we must do. The point I was making here is that the procurements were done in a very short period between the months of April and May. That's the point I was making. And it's not practicable to expect us as a board to have followed that letter for letter, commitment for commitment.
The Joint Committee chairs Mike Ombito of Trans Nzoia and nominated Senator Sylvia Kasanga, ordering KEMSA to present all the documents pertaining tenders, procurement documents, and also the expenditure documents.
If it happens, and if it is true, that some people use the pandemic to perpetuate the corruption pandemic and corruption virus in the country through KEMSA, then the thunder that will strike these people is still doing press-ups in heaven.
The status of your engagement with the development partners in our future, in our next meeting. So let's have all these documents we've requested for. I'll ask my secretariat to just put this request in writing to KEMSA, and hopefully if we could get a response.
The names of Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe and the former PES Susan Mochache having been advancedly mentioned before the committee, now the duo will have to appear before this committee to set the record straight, even as the country awaits the report of the Auditor General. Elizabeth Matuko, TV47, Palm Buildings, Nairobi.
Thank you, Elizabeth Mutuku, for that report. Now, the Senate County Public and Investment Committee has fined Murang'a Governor Mwangi wa Iria 500,000 shillings for failing to honor summons on the use of public funds for 3 financial years. The committee, which oversights the use of public funds in the devolved units, also directed Police Inspector General Hilary Mutyambai to produce the governor on September 10, 2020. The Senator Sam Ongeri-led committee cited that Wairia is a notorious absentee whenever he's invited to appear before the committee.
Number 2, we must commence a prosecution as a Senate against this governor, because he has shown an open disregard and disrespect and dishonor before this House, this is the second time coming through summonses. Number 3, Chair, at the end of these proceedings, upon your guidance and in my own humble view, they must issue warrant of arrest, write to Inspector General of Police.
I want to propose, Chair, that it's not just the 2 options that are available to this committee, the option of fining. The records of this committee and of Senate and of Parliament is that most high-ranking public officials, when fined, they find 500,000 shillings, a paltry amount. They do not feel the burden of paying for it, so it does not deter them. So whereas we should agree that he should be fined, that is not deterrent. We should apply the second option of directing or resolving that he be arrested and presented here, so that he accounts before the Senate for the use of public funds that were allocated for the benefit of the people of Murang'a under police escort.
Yeah, so in one act, Section 19, subsection 1, if he fails to turn up, that's what the penalty it will attract. 2, where the money should be paid. 3, you can also order for the arrest.
And the ODM party has called for the release of the final Building Bridges Initiative BBI report, as well as the public launch of the implementation of the BBI reforms in anticipation of the 2022 general elections. The party has insisted that it fully backs the BBI report that seeks to amend Kenya's current constitution 10 years after the country promulgated a new constitution. David Muthoka has the details.
Following a council meeting of all 47 ODM party county coordinating chairpersons, ODM has called for a prompt release of the final BBI report in a bid to fasten the implementation of the BBI reforms through a referendum. And with allegations rife that the referendum could cost the taxpayer billions of shillings, the party's Secretary General Edwin Sifuna has refuted the claims.
It is only that in Kenya people think that things have to be done in a certain way, that it is drawn out and so on and so forth, and that it is costly.
The leaders have further rubbished claims that the BBI report advocates for an expansion of the executive, an expansion that could see the taxpayer cough more to sustain the changes.
We categorically reject the lies and propaganda that BBI governance and political reforms will expand the national executive. It is clear to us that the recommendation for 50% of the cabinet to come from the parliament actually reduce the burdens of the national executive on the taxpayer and increases accountability of government to citizens through parliament.
And amid claims that the party has opted to look the other way following a recent wave of corruption allegations at the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority KEMSA, ODM has maintained that it is not its business to sanitize wrongdoers.
We support our party position on zero tolerance on corruption in public office and the need for evidence-based pursuit of anyone subjected or accused of corruption.
David Muthoka, TV47.
And calls for constitutional amendments continue to take center stage in the country, with several leaders drumming support from Kenyans. This event, as polls prove, that many Kenyans are yet to familiarize themselves with the calls for amendment of the 2010 Constitution. Ali Lagova with the details.
As the debate on constitutional amendments continue to gain momentum in the country, a section of leaders allied to the changes being proposed continue to maintain their stand as they urge Kenyans to support the amendments being proposed. Calls for change in governance structure, implementation of devolution, distribution of resources and inclusivity taking center stage.
Ya kwamba wakati wa kubadilisha katiba ndio Wakenya wote wasikie wamehusishwa kwa serikali umefika.
So ni wakati sasa wa kuimprove on this constitution. Miaka 10 imekamilika jana ya hii katiba. Na leo nataka niunge Mheshimiwa Rais mkono kusema ya kwamba after 10 years we know exactly the areas If it was a vehicle we were test driving, tunajua ni wapi inatakiwa to improve, hiyo 20% iko wapi exactly.
Unapotengeneza sheria ama katiba, tengeneza katiba ambayo unaweza kumwamini na adui yako. Usitengeneze katiba itakayokufaidi wewe peke yako. Mimi ningependa katiba ambayo makabila zote watajihizi kwamba sisi ni Wakenya.
Kenyans, however, seem to have divided views on whether there's a need for a change in the 2010 constitution. According to polls by Kenya Christian Professionals Forum KCPF, 37% of Kenyans propose amendments to the 2010 constitution. 38% of Kenyans are yet to familiarize themselves with the ongoing debate on amendments, while 42% are opposed to any attempts of amending the constitution.
Those who are supporting the amendments, of the 42% supporting, 37% think that we can amend issues to do with devolution. About 30% based on the discussion that has been there think that you can amend a structure of the executive, and those are the major groups.
Meanwhile, the Public Service Governance has added its voice on the ongoing debate, proposing amendments to Article 7 of the Constitution that provides for presidential system through elections, which they say has failed Kenyans. PSG now calling for elimination of any system that is not working for the good of the country.
We must now evaluate our Chapter 7 representation of the people. We must now eliminate systems that are not working for the good of this country. It is therefore evident that constitutional amendment is very necessary so that the country can relook at our system of governance.
Eli Logova, TV47.
Now, Deputy President William Ruto has called for unity amid the current political noise ahead of 2020 general elections. DP Ruto spoke in Mombasa after a tour of Nyali CDF offices, a community library, Congo Wea Secondary School, and the issuance of NHIF cards to Nyali constituents at Congo Wea Primary School. Nyali Member of Parliament Mohammed Ali and former Mombasa Senator Hassan Omar drummed support for Ruto's 2022 presidential bid. They also rubbished the push for amending the constitution.
Mpaka siku ile nchi ya Kenya itakuwa na haki na usawa kwa kila Mkenya, hii nchi haitoweza kuendelea. Ndio sisi tukasema kuwaleta chini wale mwabwenyenye wa kila siku na kuenua sisi wananchi walala hoi. Sisi lazima tuingie katika vuguvugu la hasla. Kwa hivyo namwambia naibu wa rais William Ruto, they can all be against you, but we will stand with you on this journey to the very end.
Naona siasa vile ambavyo inachezwa sasa, tunaambiwa ni katiba. Mimi nauliza, hii katiba imekukosea wewe mwananchi? Hii katiba imekudhulumu? Eti wanasema wanataka kuunganisha Wakenya. Utaunganisha vipi Wakenya na wewe unabagua watu wengine? Unashika watu wengine na unasema unataka kuunganisha Wakenya.
Hakuna magumu, hakuna mazito ambayo hatuwezani nayo tukiwa pamoja. Na ndio mimi nawauliza, msiwasikize wale wanatuambia porojo, ama wanatuambia eti kuna sijui mrengo huu na mrengo ule. Sisi ni Wakenya moja.
And on coronavirus, the number of COVID-19 cases has risen to 33,630 cases after 241 more people tested positive for the virus in the last 24 hours. In the spread across counties, Nairobi County is leading with 113 cases, Mombasa 14, Taita Taveta 10, Kiambu 10, Kirinyaga and Narok 9 cases each, and Kajiado 8 cases. 66 people have recovered after receiving treatment from various hospitals across the country, raising the number of recoveries to 19,434. On a positive note, there was no COVID-19 related death recorded in the country today. you for staying with us here on TV47 Weekend. Let's take a quick breather. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Welcome back to TV 47 Weekend. Now, earlier on today, I had a sit down with the first Attorney General under the current Constitution and had a conversation on the 10 years of the Charter and beyond. Here's how that interview went down. Many thanks for staying with us. And here with me is the first Attorney General under the new Constitution, Professor Githu Muigai. Thank you so much for making time for us. Prof, a lot of people are wondering, what have you been up to since you left office in 2018?
Oh, many things, but principally regaining my life. When you're away from your life for 7 years, you need to catch your breath. So I'm back teaching, the great love of my life, which is teaching. I'm teaching back at my old law school. I'm doing arbitrations, local, international. I'm practicing law at my old firm. Obviously not 8 to 5 anymore, because I've run out of that sort of energy. And I'm writing my memoirs in two volumes. I'm writing my academic book, so it's a full life.
Prof, it's been 2 years since you left your office as Attorney General, and a lot of people would like to know what's life been like, being on the other side or the outside, and also what's your perspective on the way the government is being run currently?
Well, first I like being a civilian. I like not being blamed for everything that has gone wrong. When you are the Attorney General, everybody who is unhappy with anything going wrong within the entire legal sector blames it on you, and blames every advice on you. So it's good to be a civilian and to rest. I think that our constitutional democracy is strong. I think it is functioning well. I think it has wear and tear problems like democracies all over the world. But I think that this constitution gave us a better government, gave us more vibrant institutions. I think devolution was a great idea. We probably ought never to have devolved to so many units, but it is definitely the right thing to do, to take power and money back to the people and away from the bureaucrats in Nairobi. So I have great confidence in the future of our country.
What is the one thing you miss about being a public servant, being in the limelight, being in public, if you miss that life at all?
I don't miss the limelight. I think the limelight is an illusion, but I miss the authority to do the right thing. You know, when I was in government, I would see things that were not functioning, and I would proactively get in there and fix them. Now I can't do that anymore.
Are people in government doing the right thing?
Oh, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. It's a difficult job. It's a very, very difficult job. I can tell you that for free. You know, you can imagine being a CS Treasury, and everybody is asking for money. And the collecting agencies are hampered by COVID, by all manner of things. It's a very difficult job, and I think we as citizens don't give the public servants the encouragement that they need.
Let's talk matters Constitution. You had mentioned earlier about the Constitution. It's 10 years on. Where are we as a country, Prof?
I think we have achieved much, but much remains to be done. We definitely have achieved much. Much remains to be done. I think we have stabilized the constitutional order, in my opinion. In the areas of personal freedoms, I think that our civil liberties regime is much better than it's ever been before. Am I then not concerned about, say, police misconduct? I am. I think we need to get the the culture of the Constitution inculcated in the bureaucracy of government. I would like to see, better handling of civilians, say by police. So that's some area we need to work on. But on the whole, I see a civic culture that is stronger. I like to read my newspapers, and they are robust, they are critical. I listen to the radio and TV, and people are not intimidated. They speak their minds, whether in vernacular or in Swahili and I think that's a good space.
So according to you, people have a voice?
I think people have a voice. And can that voice be stronger? Yes. Should it be made stronger? Yes. But is it strong already? We are moving in the right direction. When I listen to my students and young people in general, I am quite inspired. The sort of intellectual debates going on about what is the direction of our nation, what is the destiny of our people, what does it mean to be a Kenyan. They give me great confidence that the future will be better than the past.
You are very much involved in the drafting and formation of the Constitution. Is this the Kenya you envisioned, thought it would be 10 years down the line?
One of the things that I dreamt about, and I'm sure everybody involved in the process dreamed about, is that we would create, by the Constitution 2010, greater national unity, greater integration of our people. As you know, we come from a multiracial, multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-religious society. And blending that is not something you do in 1 decade or in 2 decades or indeed 3. I think it's a work in progress. The Kenya we dream about is a work in progress. Am I happy with the progress? Yes, I am. Am I saying I'm so happy that there is nothing left to be done? No. I'm saying I am happy with the progress. We are moving in the right direction. Citizens are asking the right questions. Politicians are debating the right issues, even amongst themselves. So I see a future in which I have confidence.
What are some of the hindrances, or some of the things hindering the implementation of the 2010 document?
Well, first, it's its own architecture. You see, this when you write a constitution, when you draw a constitution, you're like an architect who designs a building. You imagine it in your mind, and you imagine it how it will be built, and you imagine how it will be lived in. But after all that is done, you stand away from the building and you see the door shouldn't have been there, the windows shouldn't have been there. And that's what is happening now. When I stand outside the Constitution 2010, I see things we put that we shouldn't have put. I see things we didn't put that we should have put. So it isn't so much a problem of implementing, it's a problem of imagining a redesign of the same constitution.
Time to amend the documents going by the calls in the BBI report?
If you ask me personally, are there things there that I would like to change? My answer would be yes. I speak for myself. For example, the design of the legislature that made the Senate the lower house and the National Assembly, as it were, the upper house, was totally wrong. Granted that that is not what we had planned in Bomas, I would revise that. I would revise that and I would reverse that. Senate should be an upper chamber filtering legislation emanating from the lower chamber. That's one thing I would do. Constitutional commissions, too many, too ineffectual, too unfocused. I probably would have the Public Service Commission and the Judicial Service Commission. I would get all the other commissions to get back into the ministries they come from, and we should strengthen the ministerial system, strengthen cabinet, and we will get a better result, in my opinion.
Moment, is the Senate playing its role, doing its job as per the Constitution?
It is, in the very limited role that was left to it by the Constitution as finally enacted. I think it would be a much more effective body if it was allowed to do what the upper chamber does in most constitutional democracies. From the experience we now have, is more than 20%. I think 20% was a figure of speech. If we were to revisit the Constitution, ask ourselves a simple question: what worked, what didn't, and what can we do about it? We may find that there are several things we need to examine. I like devolution myself. I think it's very important. The way we finally enacted it is wrong, in my opinion. We have too many counties, some of them not viable. Number two, the attempt to reproduce the national structure at the county level. You have a legislature that has a speaker, that has a leader of the opposition, that has nominated members, and so on and so forth. And it was totally wrong. We needed a small, effective bureaucracy managing the county, and a proper county with the economic muscle for self-sufficiency. If you listen to the debate around devolution today, it is a debate that says, send us more money from the center. I'm sure you've never heard any debate saying, we are making enough money, yeah? We are making enough money here. Can we send you something in Nairobi? And that is what devolution should be at some point. Okay? The county should be self-sustaining at its best. And right now we are not seeing much of that.
Not a success so far, devolution.
That aspect of it is not a success. What I think is a success, and much I'm proud of that, is that the people are saying what they want to see done within their own local community. So we have a direct participation by the people. They are saying, this is our priority here. I don't know what the priority in Nairobi is, but here in Isiolo, here in Garissa, here in Meru, here in Embu, these are our priorities.
People are really feeling the services being brought down, like you're saying, in the counties. Are the services really reaching the Mwananchi?
I would like to hope that this is part of what local democracy should be about. People holding the governor to account, people holding their MCAs to account. And these are people who live next to you. They are not far away people in Nairobi. They are people who live in your county. You should be asking them, okay, why don't we have a bridge over this particular river so that our children can go to school when a bridge costs less than 10 million shillings? It's a footbridge. Those are the questions that should be asked at the local level. And that's where we shall strengthen our democracy. I think Parliament is too large myself, if you ask me. I think we should reduce the number of seats. I think that the quality of democracy has not improved by us increasing the number of MPs. So that's another thing I would like us to rethink. And there are so many other things. Gender. What do we want to do about gender? All right. That debate has been on and off since we started 2010. 10 years later, it's unresolved. When I was in government, I drafted 3 different bills. We were unsuccessful. So it's a question we need to put to bed sooner than later.
The BBI reports, is it a good report? Is it a good document in your own view?
I haven't gone through it with a toothbrush because I understood it to be an interim document. So I'm reserving my energies for the final document. But the broad themes that I saw are the same themes that I am concerned about, and most of the people I have talked to are concerned about.
What is the biggest success under the 2010 Constitution, according to you?
I think the Constitution 2010 achieved a number of things. The process of producing it created such an elevated civic responsibility among Kenyans that there isn't a part of Kenya today where people don't feel I have a right to contribute to the debate about the future of my country. You would be shocked at how many countries that is not the case. So here, the political consciousness and the consciousness about freedom and rights and participation in governance is very, very high. And I attribute it to the process that generated the Constitution 2010. The Constitution itself achieved a number of things, I thought. In many countries, there are issues that are off the table and they continue to destabilize politics from off the table. What I think this Constitution did was to go into our history and look at all our problems and put them on the table. The problem of ethnicity. We have several ethnic communities in Kenya. It was not hidden, it was placed on the table. The question of religion, the question of our diversities, the question of unequal development. A poor north versus a richer, not very richer, but a richer south. They were all put on the table. I think that is a great achievement because into the future, our children and their children will never now remove these things from the future and pretend. Let us pretend that these problems don't exist.
Speaking of sharing, Prof, before you go on, what's your view on the CRA proposed third generation revenue formula?
Quite frankly, I have tried to understand where the logjam is, and I've had some difficulties. Because the truth is that you want resources to go to better the lives of people, not anything else, the lives of people. So numbers matter. You cannot send money where money is not required because there are no people to con. Number 2, we have a mechanism in this Constitution, a very special mechanism for topping up an equalization fund. So I have never understood why we cannot follow the proposal given by the Commission and then put our eyes on the problem of equalization where necessary. That's my view.
Let's talk a bit about the relationship between the executive and the judiciary has not been so rosy. Keeping in mind that Chief Justice David Maraga's term is expected to end on January 2021 next year. Do you see the relationship between the two houses, between the two branches changing anytime soon?
Oh, I think I wouldn't call it. You see, the judiciary is functioning. As I've told you, I spend quite a bit of my time there. Before I came to this interview, I've just conducted a Zoom court proceeding that went very, very well. In that court there were more than 30 lawyers. I think there were more than 40 cases. And the speed at which matters were being resolved was very good. So the truth is that the judiciary is functional. I think we have a very good crop of judges. I think the succession in the judiciary will be very smooth. I don't worry so much that every so often there are territorial issues between the judiciary, the executive, the legislature. That's a given. It is a given. In all democracies, you will find that the executive says the judiciary is overreaching. The judiciary says the executive is not respecting the rule of law. Parliamentarians say, we are not voting enough money to the judiciary because the judiciary is only one of several institutions to which we should vote money, and it should not expect special privilege. These are normal wear and tear issues in a constitutional democracy.
All right, Professor Githu Muigai, thank you so much for making time for us. But we would like to know any hints on your next big assignment, maybe in public office. Do you see yourself going back anytime soon?
No. I was in my generation. Most of us were educated on public money, so I have been a public servant. I feel I have paid my debt to society, and a new generation will take the struggle to build our democracy to the next level.
Thank you so much, Prof, but you just never know. Thank you so much for making time for us. That is the first Attorney General under the new Constitution, Professor Githu Muigai. Once again, thank you for making time for us here on TV 47. Welcome back. Let's get into the world of sports. Now, retired My name is Mombi Chege. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Faith Sheptile. Good night.